Well, first off, I want to thank everyone for joining me tonight. I'm Bridget Baggett. I'm the director and founder of Career Innovations. We do provide our Q&A sessions on a weekly basis. If this is your first time joining us, or if your first time using a GoToWebinar platform, you can ask questions one of two ways. You can either raise your hand, I can unmute your mic, and you can verbally ask your question, or you can type your question in the chat bar or the question box on your panel, and that way I will answer your question following the slides. I do encourage everyone to submit their questions prior to the workshop. That way I can actually do a little bit of research on it and put together the slides, and you'll get a more informed research answer that way. So it's best to go ahead and submit those in advance. But if not, if you know your question already, I go ahead and urge you to go ahead and type it. So once we're done, your question be the first one that I answer. I do a 30-second overview of what Career Innovations does. If you did sign up either via the website or Eventbrite or any social media, you may not have a clear picture on what services we offer and what Career Innovations does and who we actually are. In a nutshell, we're a staffing and recruiting search firm. We find our talent through referrals. We're a referral-based firm, so we find different type of ways to find some of our talent. We do keep a tight-knit network. Our three top niches, I should say, is either IT, healthcare, informatics, as well as engineering. On top of our recruiting, we offer training sessions, which is today. Either do job seeker training sessions or HR training sessions. We know that we get resumes from hundreds of candidates, and unfortunately we just don't have the volume or the clients to place every single person that comes across our desk. So that's why we do these Q&A sessions. We want to give you the resources to be self-sufficient and find some of these positions on your own and be able to market yourself. In addition to that, we do resume writing, career coaching, market research for the employer as well as the candidate, compensation benchmarking, referral and retention workshops as well. I like to start each session off with a quote, and today's quote is not that some people have the willpower and some people don't, is that some people are ready to change and others are not. So I saw this particular quote and I thought this was something I would like to share because, you know, as you go through a job search and as I meet different people, you do have some people where this is the way I've always done it, or this is how I got my job, 5 years ago, or this is how I got my job right out of school. And people sometimes don't understand, how you got the job, even 2 or 3 years ago may not be the best way to get a job today. So we're going to talk about that as well. One of the first questions I had that came in is, I apply every day online. I either never get a call back or an interview that goes nowhere. What am I doing wrong? And I wanted to share some things about supply and demand. It's kind of like simple math, but some people don't understand that, depending on where you are and what you're looking for, and this person really didn't give me what type of industry they were in, what jobs they were applying to, so I really don't know where they are on a demographic platform. But I am going to share some information regarding where I am. I'm in North Carolina, actually in Charlotte, and when we looked at pretty much what the job pool looked like in North Carolina and pretty much how the workforce looked like, we pretty much can tell whether, if there's a demand, and if there is a demand, is there enough supply to meet that demand? And the first thing you have to ask yourself, if you are applying to multiple positions, and wherever you are, you may be in a position that, hey, I can't move. You want to make sure, are your skill sets in demand? What makes your industry in demand? So if you are in demand, you want to make sure that you're also trying to find out, okay, if this is something that's booming right now, why? And that will lead you to know, is this something that's going to only be a temporary fix or a temporary spike in that particular industry? So when we took a look at this, we wanted to look at different type of occupations in the North Carolina area that was most in demand. We also wanted to look at the employer. So this is their task for attracting not only new business, but also new talent in this state. So we have to figure out, okay, is there a sufficient amount of labor that's going to meet our production or meet our business needs? So next thing you want to look at is your supply, which is you. You're supplying your skills to the company, but not only looking at yourself, you want to also look at your competition. What do they look like? No, is the market wherever you live, is it saturated? Is everybody looking for that type of work, or is everybody looking for that type of job? And you also want to make sure that your solution that you're providing to the employer is different, which means what are you going to offer that organization that's going to make you different from everyone that's applying? Because keep in mind, of course, you're going to have people that apply to these jobs that don't qualify. That's a given. It doesn't take much to put in an application nowadays. Now people have these ATS systems that within 2 clicks, you can upload your resume and you're done. So since the threshold to apply has become or has decreased, anybody can apply. But you also want to look at what your competition is doing. What are the skill set that's required for the job, and what's the skill set that the candidates or that your competition has that's applying? One good way to look at this is you can go on LinkedIn, and I've talked about this in past sessions. Whatever company that you're applying to, you can look at the employees that currently work there. I'm pretty sure that particular title you're applying to is not going to be the only title in that company. It's probably going to be several people, maybe different demographics. It may be a marketing manager in New York and a marketing manager in Charlotte. But you also want to take a look at their background. How do you measure up? Because those are the type of people that they're going to hire. The people that already are working for the organization kind of gives you kind of a baseline of what they're looking for in a candidate, and how do you measure up to that? Next is your flexibility. I have these calls, and I open it up to everyone and anyone that can, sign up. So I really don't know where everyone is on the line or where you live, but you also have to know if you can look at your demand and look at your supply and say, hey, when I type in my particular title, I only have, a handful of jobs to populate in my area. Are you willing to cast a wider net? Which means, are you willing to look farther than where you live? That goes, this is going to boil down to, are you willing to relocate? If what you do is not in demand in your area and you think that may be hindering you from getting a job, there's some decisions that you're going to have to make. Maybe it may not be relocation. I have people that I've worked with that, hey, I'm settled here. I worked at this company for 10 years. We have a house. Our kids are in school. We can't move. That's understandable. But you also have to understand what's your other options. Your other options is, hey, can I go back to school and sharpen my skill set or train for another job? Or I'm willing to consider a career change. May not be a 180 career change, which 180 degree career change, like you're coming, I'm going to go into marketing, then I'm going to go to school to be a dentist. It may not be something as drastic as that, but it may be I may have to pick up a particular skill set that I don't have that may be in demand in my area. These are some things that you're going to have to consider. And it goes back to the quote. You have a lot of people that, they're doing the same thing and expecting different results, but they're not willing to make that change. So this is something I've been wanting to actually speak about and talk about how this all works. So if you're online and you're searching for a job on Career Builder or Indeed, and you're seeing that, hey, I'm seeing the same job postings over and over again. Each time I apply for a job, or I apply, every company I see I've already applied to, and that's about it for my demographics. You also want to look at how flexible are you. This is some information that I wanted to share with everyone, where the jobs are, the supply and demand for occupations. This is actually in the state of North Carolina. This is something that you can run wherever you are. I took the time to do the research in my state, but this research is actually available no matter where you live. It may not be through this particular company, of course, because this is North Carolina labor. But if you go to your state and get your state job statistics, you should be able to get some type of overview of what's in demand in your particular demographic. And I know this may glaze some people's eyes over, and this may be something that they don't want to see, but this is some of the research that you may have to do to be able to obtain the skill set for a job that may be in demand. This may be the necessary evil. So this particular data, this was obtained by the Conference Board Help Wanted Online, which is HWOL. And they actually wanted to do some type of research on the experienced labor pool. So they looked over the labor force within a 12-month period. And in this particular graph that you'll see data that was collected on occupations where workers were most recently employed. This means the type of work they were expected to have on their resume versus the job advertisements that were out there. And they saw that far larger than number of unemployed workers in computer and mathematical, healthcare practitioners, and technical, architectural, and engineering occupations. With little competition from other experienced unemployed workers. So if you see this, you'll see that the online job ads for those particular industries at the top, they were booming. There were a lot of postings for that particular industry. But look how many people were actually unemployed, which means how many people are actually looking for those type of jobs. Which means that most of the people that were in this industry had a job. They weren't looking. So you have a lot of job postings. So what does that tell you? There was a high demand and very little supply. And as you go down, you will start to see the opposite. You will start to see, hey, there's a lot of unemployed people in this particular industry, sales, food preparation, office administrative support, a lot of unemployed people, but look at the job ads, which means look at the demand. And you can see how there's definitely there's definitely not a balance with that. You're going to have more people that are unemployed versus how many jobs are available. So that's some of the data that was collected on that graph. As you can see, much less fortunate are those workers with experience in occupations towards the bottom of the graph. Okay, those are the ones that were, assembly line workers, office clerks. And I can tell you a lot of times these jobs, or not a lot of times, currently these jobs are starting to diminish because a lot of these things are starting to be automated and they're starting to outsource a lot of this work. So you're starting to see a decrease in this demand because a lot of the things that they used to pay a person to do, guess what? I can build a software to do that. Or I can ship it overseas for a fraction of the dollar. So that's why you're seeing a massive job loss over the past 15 years in this particular sector. Also, if you look at plenty of potential candidates in all types of occupations, this is actually a figure from 2014, the total experienced labor pool. You see how many labor pool that's out there, and you also see the job posting ads that are there as well. This is the supply of the experienced workers and the demand for the individual occupation in North Carolina. So this is something that you want to take a look at. I encourage you, this is for North Carolina, I encourage you to run this type of analysis on your particular state to see what industry you're in and compare it to what the demand is in your particular area, because what's happening in North Carolina definitely is going to be different from, New York or Los Angeles or Miami. So you definitely want to make sure that you're taking a look at this. And this is all a part of, again, your job search. It's more than just applying on a job. You want to make sure that you're going to be effective when you're doing this, and you know exactly what you can offer and how it's going to bring value to the organization. I think I have one more graph that I want to show you. This was studies that were most in demand for jobs for 2015. This was actually done by Career Builder. Everyone knows Career Builder. These were positions that required a college education versus the ones that did not require a college education. And keep in mind, even though they did not require a college education, they required some type of training. So when you see, medical records and things like that, this is probably someone that, hey, they have their high school diploma, but they also have some type of certificate versus a 4-year degree. So even though it does not require a college education, requires some type of training to get in this particular type of industry. This was actually Chicago-based Career Builder. They partnered up with the economic modeling specialists to determine what jobs are most in demand. They pulled data from 90 national and state employment resources, and they looked at the average number of people hired per month in more than 700 occupations. This is from January to August of 2014. So January of 2013 up into August of 2014. The goal was to compare the number of jobs the companies post each month versus the number of people that actually were able to hire. So they were measuring the supply and the demand for each one. They said for nearly 70 occupations in the U.S., the rate at which workers were being hired isn't keeping up with the frequency of the volume of some open positions that were being advertised. So as you can see, a lot of the tech jobs were popular on the list. You can see the highest demand or the highest unfilled positions required some type of college degree. This included your software developers and your web developers. They also showed the jobs that were far away from the highest gap between job postings and hires is truck drivers. They had more than 110,000 unfilled positions. So if you take a look at this, and again, I don't know what industry people are that are on the line, this shows you where the gap is, the gap between postings and the gap between the hires. And this also tells you how many postings are posted each month. This is on a national level. So that's why when I go back to that first slide and say, hey, you may not be in demand in your local area, but are you willing to cast a wider net in other areas? Because other areas may have a demand. So I have everyone take a look at that, and we're going to go into the second part of the question that the person has, was that they were either getting interviews and they weren't going anywhere. So if you were getting interviewed, that means that that's a good sign that they saw something they liked, and they called you in for an interview. So you were moving forward if you caught their attention to move forward. But if you're not going anywhere and you're telling me that your interviews are going nowhere, that makes me think that you need to reevaluate these things I have on this slide. So if anyone's on the line getting interviews or not getting interviews, you need to take a look at your marketing efforts. You need to reevaluate your marketing efforts. This means taking a look at what and how you're marketing yourself. And your marketing materials, maybe your resume, maybe your cover letter, maybe your LinkedIn profile, and maybe your own little personal website or your own little personal business card. Whatever you're doing to market yourself, you need to reevaluate that if people are taking a look at your resume and saying, oh, pass. Are you hitting those keywords that they're looking for? Or do you not have the experience? A lot of people, may have the keywords, but they may not have the requirements that they're looking for the job. Next thing, you want to take a look at your solution. You want to know your solution. How does it bring value? Your solution is not that you manage 10 people. A solution is something that's not in a job description. You actually weren't hired to do it. It was something that was done because you were hired. I'm going to repeat that. It's not something that they hired you to do. It was something that was done because you were hired. It's those aha moments. It's those accomplishments. How did you save the company money? How did you make the company money? How did you bridge a gap? How did you perfect a process? What did you do while you were there? Managing a team is not a aha moment. That's what you were paid to do. Filing, I see resumes where it's literally, it looks like a cut and paste from a job description. You want to be able to share a solution. If I were to hire you versus every other person that applied to this job, what value are you going to bring? And if you can bring this, what have you done with the past organizations to prove it? That's a solution. Next is your network. You need to work on your network. Sometimes it boils down to who you know. A lot of people don't talk about this topic, but I've seen a lot of people that were unqualified get a job because they knew someone and knew someone. They could have had their resume written in crayon, and still got the job because they had someone to vouch for them. They had someone to co-sign on them. So sometimes your network does play a role in if you get the job or not. Next thing is your flexibility. Are you flexible? That goes back to, are you willing to relocate? Are you willing to move? Are you willing to cast that wider net? Follow up. Are you following up with your contacts, your network? Are you asking for feedback? I see a lot of people, they go through the motions. They're really not asking for feedback, and they don't know what they did wrong. That's another thing that I see is that, how can you change something if you're not measuring it? And it goes down to the last point, is tracking. You can't change what you don't measure. So if you're not tracking what's working and what's not, and you just keep doing the same thing, and hey, hopefully, I'll get a interview off of this, I'll throw my resume out there kind of like spaghetti and see what sticks. You'll never know what's bringing you the success and what's not, or if anything. So you want to make sure that you're tracking your efforts, not only tracking the companies that you apply to, but also the people that you spoke with, getting the days and times that you'll follow up, or if it's a day or time that you'll be moving forward. Find out if the position's on hold. If they eliminated the position. I know some people that have been waiting for a callback, they never get one because they never knew the job was eliminated, or they hired someone else. It's been filled. So you want to make sure that you're not only following up and getting that feedback, but you're also tracking your efforts as well. And again, it boils down to, why should I hire you? And this is pretty much building off of what we already spoke about, is out of all the applications and candidates that you that apply to that job, what sets you apart? If everyone matches the requirements, which means that, hey, requires you to have a bachelor's, requires 5 to 7 years of experience, requires XYZ, and guess what? Everyone meets those requirements that apply to the job. They all have had the title before. They all have the education. They all have the experience. What's going to set you apart? Again, it goes back to your solution. What value can you bring to the organization that your competition can't, or has not done, or has not brought? That's what's going to set you apart. I had one person that asked, what are some tips for getting involved in the green movement in Pittsburgh? On this slide, it just shows several organizations or several websites you can visit. I don't know if you were looking to get involved on a kind of a volunteer basis, or you were looking for kind of a go green job. So I put different resources in the Pittsburgh area that you should check out. They do have Pittsburgh Green Jobs. They have Green Pittsburgh, which are a government platform where you can either look at city or state jobs that work on sustainability for Pittsburgh. There's a Go Green or a Green Job Network. This is anything. You can actually narrow your search down to Pittsburgh, but if anyone else on the line is interested in looking for Go Green Jobs, this is open up on a national platform, so you can look for jobs anywhere that support environmental sustainability in your area. Sustainable organizations in Pittsburgh, I would check out greenerpittsburgh.com. If you want to look at nonprofits or be a part of a nonprofit, definitely check out Pittsburgh Green Space Alliance. They have some great opportunities, volunteer opportunities, things that you can get involved in your community if this is something that you're wanting to be a part of, the Go Green movement. So definitely jot this down. I'm pretty sure if you put in the titles, it will populate the URL. So just go to Google, put in Go Green Pittsburgh, Go Green Job Pittsburgh, or any of these titles. It'll populate the links for you. Or you can shoot me an email. I'd be more than happy to email you this slide or copy and paste the links for you so you'll have that. And this is when I open the line up. It's now about 7:30, and I open the line up for the next about 20 or 30 minutes for any Q&A. If you do jump off the line before time, or if your question was answered, thank you for joining us. If you do have a question, I'm going to pull up the slide now to check the questions that were typed in. Just a heads up, if you log off, there's a survey I'd like you to take. It's about 10 questions. If you could go ahead and take it, give me your feedback on not only how this workshop was, any workshop topics you'll like in the future that you'd like to address, any questions that you may have, definitely leave that in the survey. We're also having a Summer Sizzler special. We've had the same prices for a little bit over a year now, and we are increasing our prices by mid-June. I want to say June 15th or latter part of June, we are going to have a price increase. And I'm going to have everyone take advantage of our prices now. We're giving 30% off our resume writing and editing services. Included with that, you're going to get a free cover letter, which I call a solution letter. Usually that's a $50 value. We're actually going to do that for free if you go ahead and take advantage of the summer special. And we're also giving $75 off our hourly rate for career coaching or your market research rate. This is going to end on the 15th. On the 15th, we are going to go ahead and increase our prices because we've pretty much had the same prices for a while. And just like supply and demand, it goes for cost and everything else. As our costs increase, we also, in order to provide the services that we provide, we will have to do an increase on some of our services. So that's something that we're going to have to do. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at any questions that we have. I have a question. How do you know if you are providing a solution versus a task? How do you know if you're providing a solution versus a task? Well, for resume writing, I do the CAR method, which is your problem or your conflict. That's where the C comes in. The action that you took, which is the A, and the R would be your resolution. You know, what happened? So when you're talking about a solution, you're talking about something that you've done within the organization that produced some type of positive product or positive result for the company. So of course that wouldn't be like, and I went over a couple of duties that people put on there as far as managing candidates and managing employees, unless they produce something for, hey, I managed employees to the point that you increase retention. I had a team of 10, and, they've been here as long as me, or whatever process you put in place that you retained you have 100% retention or something of that nature that shows some type of positive result on the company's end. Where I had one guy that was in sales that, anyone that was on his team got promoted or was in the, top 10% sales of their region. That was an aha moment for him because he was a person that, his job was not only to manage these employees, he was, his responsibility was to train them, make them efficient, build a team that was going to go out there and sell. And it come to find out, anyone that was on his team always was in the top 10%. That was something that was, he could tell the employer that, hey, whoever I work with, they always produce, they're always in the top 10. That was something that was a solution that he could provide to his, his future employer. So we're looking for things like that. They're going to be able to bring value to the organization. That to me is more impactful than saying that, hey, I managed a team of 10. Next bullet point, blah, 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 blah. Next bullet, that's more powerful, saying, hey, I managed a team of 10, from 2010 to 2014 was always top 10% producers. That's more impactful. So you want to look for ways that, your task that you were assigned or what you were quote unquote hired to do becomes something that brings the company to the next level. So that's something that employers are looking for. And that's a solution that you're selling, not so much to put on your resume, but also a talking piece in those interviews, because they're going to look for things. They're going to differentiate you from everyone else that's applying to these jobs. And if I have someone that has this, I'm using the guy as an example that was in sales. If I have someone that's applying to the job and, they both have the bachelor's degree and they both have the 10 years sales experience I'm looking for, and they both have managed teams before, but this guy tells me that everybody on his team is always in the top 10%, hey, I'm going to go with this guy. He showed me something that I can implement in my company that's going to make us move ahead from our competition that's out there. So that's what I mean, that you want to be able to have something that's going to set you apart from everyone else that may be coming to the table with the same credentials as you. Do we have any more questions? Okay, I see someone typing right now, so I'll give you a second to finish typing, and I'll go ahead and answer that. So hopefully I'm covering some material that you wanted to hear today. Hope no one's getting discouraged, because again, it can it can be discouraging if you've been doing everything that you need to do and you're not getting the results. It's sometimes you have to take a look at what's out there. And again, sometimes the rules of job search game has changed, and we have to address that as well. Okay, I have the question now. It says, you talked about your network. I'm sorry, this kind of, I said, you talk about having a network and applying to people that you may know, or reaching out to people that you may know. Should you do that before applying online? I mean, I think that they're going to direct you back to the website anyway if you have to apply online. I know a lot of people that, at the end of the day, even if they do have an interview set in stone, they still have to apply online. I definitely would go ahead and apply online. But if you have someone in your network, or if you don't have someone in your network, it's usually the opposite. Most people that apply online to these companies don't know anyone that worked there. Because if you did, that probably would be your first line of defense. Hey, let me call up so-and-so and let them know I'm interested in this, and let them tell you, the process and to engage that decision maker. So most of the time it's the other way around. To me, once you apply to a position or to a company that, hey, I really don't know anyone in the organization, I really don't have anyone I can reach out to, I think your next move should be to start reaching out to people in that organization. I've had people that after they apply, they look them up on LinkedIn and they send them a little note, to connect and to not only connect, asking for a quote unquote status. And that's what a lot of people think networking is. Asking the status on your application is not networking. Sending an email asking, hey, this is my credentials, do you have a job? That's not networking. Networking is engaging with someone to see if you can meet a particular need. That's networking. So if you reach out to someone in the organization and you say, hey, you can let them know that you apply, but also see if you can give them insight in the organization. Not have someone that, they did research on the organization. They knew a particular product or service that was going to roll out versus what their competitor already had out, and they brought that to that person's attention. And they pretty much showed the pros and cons. Hey, I hear that you guys are doing this X, Y, and Z, and this company is doing this. Hey, I got some recommendations on how you can make it better. Or I can give you kind of insight on what can make you competitive. They gave them something. They kind of gave them an edge on their competition versus, hey, my name is so-and-so. Did you get my application? And if you did, what's my status? That's going to go right to spam. So you want to find ways that you're going to reach out and also engage that decision maker to want to call you back, want to inquire about, the research that you've done. So that to me is more so networking than just looking for a status update. That's not networking. Also joining, and I've said this in the past, if you're in the industry, join some of the organizations and associations that are affiliated with the industry that you're in. That's the best way to get your foot in the door, because a lot of these decision makers are not only active members, but serve on a lot of these nonprofit boards and these professional associated related organizations. They either are not only members, but they are members on the actual board of the organization. So instead of, you can put a face with a name, you can meet them, you can set a date to meet up for lunch, coffee, whatever, you can have that face-to-face interaction where sometimes, using LinkedIn or email can make that interaction limited. See if we have any more questions. Okay, I don't see any more questions. I do have a thank you. You're welcome. I hope everyone took value from this from this particular workshop tonight. And I hope I was able to bring you some type of insight on either what you could be doing and also improve on what you're currently doing. Again, once you log off, please take the survey so I know how everything is. You should be getting an email from me sometime later on in the week with with a promo code if you do want to take advantage of our special that we have going on. And hopefully I see you next week. Come with your questions, shoot them to me in advance. That way I can put them together on a slide. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask me off the record, definitely shoot me an email. That's the best way to get a hold of me. If you want to have a one-on-one conversation, I urge you to go to the website. On the website, there's a spot where you can book a appointment or schedule an appointment. It's a big old orange button. So you can click on that. You can look at my calendar and schedule an appointment. We can talk one-on-one about some of the challenges that you may be facing. Thank you so much and have a great night.